want to really deliver the information of, all the misconceptions and myths and science around raw milk. So maybe I'll ask you about, why so many people are scared of raw dairy and raw milk.
Because that's what our culture has educated us to do, to be scared of anything other than pasteurized products. Our medical schools teach that. The schools in general teach that. That's our culture. But I'll start out with a quote from Dr. Bruce German, who's the founder of the International Milk Genomics Consortium, PhD, distinguished PhD at UC Davis. He said, pasteurization is an 18th century solution to an 18th century problem. We can do a whole lot better.
I love it.
In the 1800s, we had a big problem in all the big, wasn't so much in the small cities, but Philadelphia, Boston, New York, England, Russia, downtown, pick your big town, Stalingrad or whatever it was in Russia, St. Petersburg, had problems when cows were being brought into the city from where they were naturally in the country on hillsides with clean water and sunshine. And the conditions shifted where the cows no longer had pastures and they were in a bunch of mud. And what was being made in the cities was breweries. And breweries made distillers' grains and distillers' mash. And that was slopped to the cows. And there was no chilling of the milk. There was no understanding of the pathogens. Typhoid fever, tuberculosis ran rampant. The people that milked the cows by hand in open buckets, it was so bad that they would put their feet in the warm milk because it was cold in the mornings.
Oh my God.
It was a filthy, disgusting mess. And 40% of people died that drank that milk during that 1880s, 70s, 1880s, 1890s period, which is about 130, 140 years ago. Well, the solution was just cook the heck out of it. Just cook it until everything died, and then it would render it safe. And for the most part, that worked pretty good. 40% fewer people died, but still had a lot of water problems where the water quality and sanitation issues weren't up to speed, and people still got sick and died from the water quality issues associated with milk and other foods. So that was the beginning of the whole pasteurization concept. Before that, for 15,000 years, I mean, you could argue whether it's 12,000 or 15,000 or 20,000, but there's evidence going back to 12 or 13,000 years that mankind around the world thrived when they had a mammalian milk source. Because when there was green grass, sunshine, water, they had a totally whole food available to them, and they didn't have to hunt, fish, or starve. Or farm or do anything. They had all of it right there. As long as they had sunshine and grass and water, they were good to go. And they would store that milk and it became cheese. So we've lost the wisdom of the ages here and understanding that if you have the right conditions, raw milk is the first food of life for mammals. That defines us. Mammals means lactating or lactation and nursing our young. And for mankind, that means breastfeeding. For other mammals, that means, udders and whatever, they're young. Well, I can imagine the caveman or whatever it was, 15,000 years ago, starving, having a hell of a time, and noticing that Iraq or that ancient cow nursing its young going, well, there's milk coming out of that udder, just like my wife over here, and my caveman wife. Well, why can't I just go? And so they domesticated these animals, reindeer, sheep, horses, camels. It was literally around the world, donkeys, and got milk from them. And that milk was a whole food that carried all kinds of miraculous things that nourished mankind. And there's well-established studies on that. But there was a train wreck in the 1800s when these cows were brought into the cities and didn't eat the right things, and the water quality was horrible and everything else. But in 1893, something else very interesting happened. A gentleman by the name of Dr. Coit said, wait a minute, why don't we just clean up our act? You can pasteurize all you want, that's fine, but we're going to certify through the American Association of Medical Milk Commissions, the AAMMC, dairymen that are going to use hygienic practices, clean the udder, chill the milk, test the milk, much as Raw Milk Institute's doing now today. And for literally 106 years until 1999, so 1893 to 1999, there was this consortium of effort internationally to produce raw milk in a sanitary method. And that milk was going to the Mayo Clinic. It was healing people. It was fantastic food. There's big journals and all kinds of written research articles about that from the 30s, 40s, 50s about how fantastic raw milk was for healing people when they were sick or preventing it as well. But in 1999, Altadena in Los Angeles was the last brand to be doing raw milk under the AAMMC standards. And they sold to Dean's Foods because the real estate became so valuable in Los Angeles. They sold for millions and millions of dollars and moved there. The Stubies moved up to Oakdale, California. So that's kind of the story of why pasteurization has got a really bad black mark on its record, which was quite stellar for 15,000 years until the 1890s when it hit a real car wreck with sanitation and illness.